for everyone watching, I now will be turning off my camera and doing a lovely screen share. All right, so hopefully everyone is able to hear us and see us from both in the Zoom and on the live stream. My name is Whitney. I am lucky enough to be the community manager for She Builds on Lovable. And with us today is Annabelle, one of our season 1 participants. I'm going to stop talking because we're already 2 minutes in and we don't have enough time for what all I know Annabelle has to share with us. And so thank you all for being here. You can drop questions in the chat. And as well as use the Q&A. And Annabelle, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having me. And if there are any questions, just put them in the chat. While I'm presenting my slides, I don't have 2 screens today, so I will just see my slides. So Whitney, if you can just, if somebody has a question, just pop it in. Every once in a while, I might check in and look into the chat, but I might not be able to reply immediately, so just keep me aware.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be out. Okay, cool. So yes, welcome to the Unconscious Bias in Product Development session. I think it's the first session for the She Builds Hackathon. And I'm very excited. I'm a former alumna, and I will give you a small introduction about myself. But basically today is about how our hidden assumptions shape the products that we build and how we can do it better. And to keep the vibe going, I actually made the presentation with Lovable. So since I don't know exactly who's in the audience, I assume that a lot of She Builds participants are aware of biases, but we do a small test. So I have a small riddle for you just to warm you up, and you can put it into the chat if you know what's the solution to this one. And I try to see it in parallel. All right, we have one first answer. I can see it here. Yes, so I will go quickly through the slides. So some people say mom, mom, mom. Interestingly, you're still all biased because, yeah, everyone is just voting for the mom. And I would say you're all biased because the son could also have 2 fathers, And I'm sure there's plenty of other options, but yeah. So this one is just to showcase to you a little bit about your own biases. And a quick note about myself. So I have a background in human-machine interaction and in technology management. I'm currently studying psychology and philosophy. And before I returned back to academics, I did a lot of different things. I was working venture capital. I was vice president of research and development. And at some point, I became a freelancer, and I decided to do consulting and responsible product development, and also do some systemic business coaching with a focus on outliers, minorities, and high potentials, and to kind of combine these different perspectives into making products more accessible and creating a more equal and diverse world by building the right products for everyone. And as I said before, I'm also a proud alumna by the She Builds cohort, the first one. So what is unconscious bias? The good news is everyone is having unconscious bias. So this one is not to shame you today, but basically unconscious bias is our learned assumptions, beliefs, and attitudes, and we are not necessarily aware of it. These are our quick decisions that we're making, or quick stereotypical thinking that we're having. And if you have a brain, the good or the bad news, it depends on how you see it, you will be biased. So, but this is not to take the responsibility from you, but just to make sure that okay, everyone has biases. Don't be ashamed of that, but still it has a lot of impact on us and our products and our society. And it should be, people should be more aware of it and actually try to eliminate as many unconscious biases as possible. So how are biases formed? Usually it can be through, let's say, societal or parental conditioning. It's the whole environment that's surrounding us. It can be the neighborhood that we're growing up in. It can be the friends that are surrounding us. A lot of like the whole environment and society and everything surrounding us shapes our decision-making and our perceptions and our thinking. And I gave you some examples at the bottom of the slide. So it can be in dimensions of, let's say, gender, ethnicity, disability, sexuality, body size, and profession. But it's not limited to that. There are so many more dimensions. It's just which assumptions do we take in our stereotypical thinking about certain factors surrounding us. And if that's too abstract, a little bit more detailed. So where does bias come from? It's basically our thinking patterns that we form, and there's like several reasons for this. For example, we have a specific way on how we store the memories in our data that we are constantly, let's say, seeing in the world. And we don't have this much brain capacity to store all of this information. So our brain takes some shortcuts. So we have the information shortcuts to process information quickly, or how we store and retrieve our memories will be affected by this. Our memories sometimes betray us, and we stereotype and make memories much easier for us to access, but it might mean that we leave out some minor details which don't fit the pattern or the stereotype. We have limited processing capability, so we cannot consciously process all of the available information. Our feelings and emotions influence our decision making and our judgments. So you might know the decision. You might know the difference between responding and reacting. So if we have, let's say, if we're angry and we just react instead of waiting a little bit, let the emotion pass and respond instead. That's just one example. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, the social influence. So we are shaped by the opinions and behaviors of the people around us. Do we have any questions so far? I will skip to the chat.
None yet. We got a quiet group this morning.
Then I will just... Pardon?
I said we have a quiet group.
Okay, yeah. As long as feel always free to mix your thoughts in there, because I don't get it right all the time either. So
actually, we do have someone raising their hand. So if you don't mind us letting them.
And I like discussions, so go for it.
Yes. All right. Well, I lost the hand. So why don't, if you can put your question in the chat, and then Annabelle, you can go on, and I'll let you know when that question's available.
All right. And otherwise, you can also, we have a Q&A session at the end if I get through with my slides in time. So coming to the next slides, I have some types of cognitive biases. Don't worry, it's a lot of information, and I won't guide you through all of this. I have like a link list at the end of the presentation where you can look them all up. But basically, we distinguish, let's say, between 4 main blocks of biases. So you can have memory biases, information overload, the need for meaning, acting fast. These are just some examples. And let's say for information overload, if we have, many of you might be familiar with the confirmation bias, for example. We have one assumption, and we have the tendency then to look for facts that will confirm our assumption and proving us right. And another example is the IKEA effect, which is about if we have built something, we give it more value than maybe something that hasn't been built by us, or has been built by another team, for example. I'm a bit confused if I match the boxes and the bullet points rightfully, but I will look it up in hindsight. So not sure if information overload is really an example for confirmation bias. But anyway, I will look it up, so don't take it. Yeah, I'm not fully sure right now, but I will look it up. So coming to the next slides, bias is everywhere. Now it's up to you guys again, to get some interaction going. Where do you think unconscious biases influence our day-to-day decisions? I have lots of examples, but I want you to use your brains as well. So do you have some ideas where you might come across biases in your day-to-day? And if you have no idea. I will just give you like one hint. So for example, medication is one very prominent example that medication, for example, works differently on women than on men, just as one example. I see parenting, communication at work, yes. Fitness studies, yeah, exactly. But it's teaching, parenting, hiring, yes, very good. So I enjoy that you're all thinking and participating with me. Women in tech fields, yes, absolutely. That's why I started hosting these presentations. I also actually have a lecture on this at the universities because of that women in tech stuff. Home care, perfect. All right. So I will reveal some examples. So for example, medicine was the first one that I gave away. So bodies react differently to the different medications. Credit decisions, so who gets the loan and at what or at which interest rate. We of course all know about George Floyd as an example when it comes to, let's say, racial profiling and police violence. Urban planning is a very prominent example, but not always at top of the mind of everyone. But if you think about, for example, traffic lights, the red light is like switching from green to red can be quite too quick for, let's say, elderly people and or maybe other people who walk or have the tendency to walk more slowly. And then the question would be, okay, who actually built the traffic light and decided that how long the green and red light phases will take for pedestrians? Court decisions, so sentencing disparities. I have one example for that one later. Perception of people, we just mentioned women in tech as one example, competent versus competitive, emotional versus passionate, leadership skill versus bossiness. Architecture is another example, let's say mixed rooms. Why is there always a queue in front of the women's restroom, for example, and never in front of the men's restroom? Hiring decisions, resume screening, interview callbacks. Who gets the job? Is it the one with the, let's say, I'm living in Berlin, by the way, so let's say, is it the person with a more Western name or is it somebody with a less Western name? Most likely people have the tendency and the bias still to hire someone with a, let's say, German sounding name or Western name. But also, if it's a technical role, what are the odds that the role will be given to a guy instead of a woman? So these are the hiring decisions. Pay gaps is a prominent topic. Image recognition, I have an example on that one as well later on. Housing rentals, who gets the apartment, and product development, which is our topic for today. So one example are crash test dummies. Women have, I think, 76% higher risk to get injured in car accidents because crash test dummies, which were in use for a very long time, were calibrated to, I think, a 45 kilogram. I'm not sure what it is in pounds or anything else, maybe 90 pounds. Body of the what they thought would be the average female. And therefore, since this is not the average body size of a female, there's a much higher tendency of women getting injured in crash tests, in crashes, car crashes, because of this wrong, let's say, assumption of a female body. All right, bias by design. I have one study. Actually, this one is a German, but don't worry, I will translate it for you. So basically, if we look into product development, our unconscious bias doesn't only label people into stereotypes. It is also if we are working in product development, and I'm now taking very tangible product, children's clothing. The problem is if we have unconscious bias, the products that we build will also affect how society, or it will affect the stereotypes and reinforce the stereotypes. And I have one example. So this one was a study, or it was actually a news report by a German magazine, a German news magazine. And they figured out that actually out of an analysis of 20,000 children's clothing items, gender stereotypes were basically reinforced. And to give you some more data on this, So if we look at the color distribution, the pink shirts, for example, dominated the girls' clothing, and the blue dominates the boys' clothing. And also, interestingly, the shorts for girls were much shorter than the shorts for guys. And if you then buy these products for your kids, it kind of reinforces the stereotype of girls wear pink, boys wear blue, and it's also kind of, girls wear kind of the sexy shorts and the guys wear these longer shorts. So we already shape our perception of gender roles or gender in general just by the products that we're building and also which we are buying and using. And of course, since we're in AI and vibe coding and all of this, also there's a lot of bias in AI and decision making. I just collected a couple of headlines in here. So we see it oftentimes comes to racism actually in algorithms. It comes to gender bias. There's a lot of stuff if you look up for it. And I actually brought you, let's say, one case study. So there's an NGO and investigative journalism platform called ProPublica, and they analyzed 7,000 defendants in Florida. And an algorithm was deciding and calculating the risk scores for these defendants on the probability that they would commit another crime. And these systems, were basically trained on human data. And unfortunately, these data led to Black defendants were being falsely flagged as future criminals at almost twice the rate than, let's say, white defendants. And white defendants in general were more often mislabeled as low risk than the Black defendants. And this is just one example of how our unconscious biases have maybe led to wrong decision-making in the past. And now these wrong decision-making data were fed into an algorithm, and this algorithm then decides on the data from the past by predicting the future and then also just recreating the stereotype of, let's say, in this case, Black defendants are more likely to commit another crime. So that's basically racist algorithm. So some other common pitfalls in AI development. So if you have your AI loop, the bias loop, as I just mentioned, you have your biased data, your biased output, and it will reinforce stereotypes. Another example that I have figured out was, of course, the image generators. So if you write, hey, let's say Lovable, I'm not sure, but if you ask an AI, please create me an image of a CEO, the probability is high that you will get an image of a male CEO. Or if you say, as we had at the entrance of our presentation today, if you say, generate a picture of a doctor, it could be a male doctor, it could be a white doctor, probability is much higher. Also, if we build in our own image, if you have homogeneous groups for product development, you will also get a very narrow perspective on what the product should look like. And that's why it's very important that you always have, or always try to have, diverse perspective and diverse teams. And just, doing the user interview, yes, it can be helpful, but it's much more helpful to have someone in the decision-making in the product team, not just as, let's say, a person being interviewed as a potential user. Because you might not know whom you have forgotten. So try to get your team as diverse as possible, which is already leading to the other point, the invisible user. Who are you not designing for? And if you have a very homogeneous team, it's very difficult to think of everyone. So you need to, eliminate this kind of issue as early as possible by recruiting for diversity and involving as many different perspectives as possible. And also when it comes to vibe coding, who's prompting, of course, become aware of your own biases and of your own shortcuts. So if you ask for a picture of, let's say, a doctor or a CEO or a nurse, question the output that you receive and say like, well, okay, now the nurse was female, please give me a male nurse, or give me a female CEO or something like this, or a Black CEO. Questions so far? Just
Yeah,
looking to
we
the
have a
chat.
couple in the Q&A. Lauren asks, curious what tactics you might have within the tool or prompts that you use to mitigate against bias.
Mhm. So I haven't developed a tactic specifically for the prompts yet, but what you could do, of course, you could tell your AI, let's say I'm using, for example, ChatGPT a lot, where you have this little box where you can, tell it how to provide the answers, and you can tell it challenge on unconscious biases. You could even feed in some of the unconscious biases. They're quite known. I think there's around 50, and I can also give you the source to this. You can say, well, as I said, you can also, of course, challenge the output once you receive it and double check if the output is actually recreating a stereotype. But I would already, kind of put a default setup for your AI and say, okay, let's try not to reinforce any stereotypes, and have the AI challenge itself, and then, of course, double check. That would be my first go-to solution. But I'm also I'm really open to any other suggestions. I could imagine there's a lot of input also from the audience who have some nice ideas or maybe also experience. All right. Anything else?
Well, yeah, we've got questions for you. Also from Lauren, curious what research may have been baked into the layout, color, design of this presentation. She likes it, but is just also curious.
Yeah. So basically, I said, "Hello, Lovable. I want to build a presentation for SheBuilds," and then I took screenshots from the SheBuilds website, and I was like, "So please help me and just match the design." Because usually when I create a presentation, I try to match it to the audience and also to the company maybe that I'm doing it for. I would usually involve the logo. I was like, you know what? I just use Lovable completely. So that's what influenced my design today.
That's and for those new to Lovable, that's your first tip on how great screenshots are.
Yeah, exactly. I use it a lot. I will answer any other questions in a second.
Okay.
I will just finish my slides, and then maybe I will answer some of your questions automatically, and then happy to have some Q&As. So how to combat bias, which I assume could be a question. Basically, become aware of your own biases. I think that's the best thing you can start with. And then gently educate others when possible. So don't become, I don't believe in moral superiority. So I don't like it when you start talking to others like, oh no, you shouldn't do it this way because I'm better and you're not, and I'm more educated and I'm unbiased and you're not. I don't like that approach at all. But I think you can help people become aware of their biases when there's a good opportunity. And at the same time, you should also speak up if biases become harmful. So gently educate them if you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings and the situation allows for it. And not so gently educate them when it's becoming harmful and you need to speak up if you see someone being discriminated, for example. I believe that you should be authentic to your values. That's also in relation to speaking up. So if you see injustice and you say, well, I believe in a diverse, inclusive, and equal world, then stay authentic to these values and also stand for this. And yeah, take your decisions based on these values. Help and uplift others. So if you are in a position of privilege, I think we all are in some sort of position of privilege, no matter where we are. Even though if you think we don't have any privilege, we probably still have more position of power than somebody else. Just look around you. So help and uplift others, open doors, speak up, become an ally if possible, or mentor someone who is in need. You can also seek allies and mentors if you're someone, fighting or struggling with biases or discrimination in this case. Recruit for diversity when possible. Try to have diverse product teams. Try to get as many different perspectives and also listen actively to diverse perspectives. Try to get different opinions and leave your narrow box of thinking. Diversity, if you need to have a point for your manager, diversity is always good for business. So there's a McKinsey study which says that companies outperform their competitors by 35% if their teams are more diverse than the comparison group. And also diverse teams apparently have take better decisions 70% of the time compared to individual decision makers. So, a diverse group has better output than one person taking a decision alone, because you have this variety of perspectives. And that's a Harvard Business Review article in this case, but probably there's a study behind this as well. Last but not least, I have some recommendations for you. Maybe you want to screenshot it. So further reading, Thinking Fast and Slow is one quite commonly known book by Daniel Kahneman. Ruined by Design is one of my favorites. It's a bit polemically, I'm not sure if that's a word, but it's written in a very polemic way. I really enjoy it. He curses a lot, but it's quite fun to read. And I think it really opens the eyes on how product design affects society. Invisible Woman is also quite famous, how data bias is, in this case, affecting women in a world so-called designed for men, and Weapons of Mass Destruction in general, on what big data, the effect of big data on society and also democracy in this case. Some more useful resources on cognitive biases. I can really recommend these two links on the left-hand side. Every single cognitive bias, apparently they claim, I think it's around 50. It's a long list with a lot of examples of all the biases which exist. And some really good examples, so that you kind of know which trap you could tap into or fall into. Here's another one from the same page, also with really nice visuals and examples. I think it helps to read a little bit into the so-called paradox of tolerance. It's more about discrimination and this kind of stuff, but how much tolerance, how much can I tolerate without stepping onto somebody else's feet? And at the same time, when do I have to speak up, And this is kind of hand in hand going with the categorical imperative by Kant. I won't dive into this kind of stuff right now, but happy to answer the Q&A in a second. And then the self-test, which is by the Harvard University. You can also test your biases if you follow this link. All right, now I really rushed through the presentation, but I have a little bit of time for Q&A. I mean, I actually have time. I don't know about you guys, but just to be mindful of the time of the 30-minute slot. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them now.
Yes. So let's see. We've got... Okay, that's looks like more about the sprint. Designing a women's health product, should I use traditionally gendered colors, like pink for women to represent gender, or would that reinforce stereotypes? What's a better approach?
I would say you do you. You can also own it. You can be like, you know what, I own it and I do pink because screw it. Yes, it could be reinforcing stereotypes, but I think it's also, what is your message behind this? Do you want to say you know what, I don't care if it's labeled as a stereotype and I'm just doing pink because I like pink? Or is it, oh, I do pink because all the women always have pink and that's why I need to do it? So yeah, stay authentic, as I said, to your values. If you think I will own this and I, claim it back in a way, then do it. If I ask for, I'm thinking about it in a personal opinion, I would say, yes, it's reinforcing stereotypes, but I don't mind, personally.
Interested in learning how we could design with accessibility in mind. I don't know if this is something you know, Annabelle, but are there any recommended guides that you're aware of? We'll try and provide some as well, but
I haven't looked up for guides yet. I think it's a really interesting topic because I'm really interested in neurodivergence in general, so autism spectrum, ADHD. I haven't looked into guides. I'm not sure if there's a guide, but I'm really educating myself a lot in doctors forums and reading a lot of scientific research into this. But I cannot think of any. Probably there will be good resources. Yeah. Maybe I have digged my own little rabbit hole. Maybe I could make my life easier by actually just asking Google if there's a guide on how to do inclusive design with a like specific focus on, let's say, disability or whatever the topic is. Yeah, there is.
And we'll end with this question. Do you have some practical tips to essentially leverage She Builds on Lovable as an opportunity to champion this topic even further, especially for building for social impact? And they say thank you for the work you're doing for responsible and ethical AI.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that's what I love about She Builds and Lovable, because you're already doing it, right? I've been part of the first batch, so to say, and I remember you were really like, I think, screening also for social impact, and you already have this kind of topic in the backs of your head and in the back of your heads. And I think, yes, if you know, also the Lovable crew or the She Builds crew could also like give one rate on inclusive
Ooh.
design, for example, as a jury.
In the final submission review.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. So, yeah, wonderful.
Just one example. Yeah, there's probably a lot more stuff, but yeah.
I like it. And you can do things like this. We will happily put you in front of whoever we have access to. So, Annabelle, thank you so much. 30 minutes is not enough, but we are taking up so much time of everybody's lives that next week and a half. There are requests if you'd be willing to share this presentation, the resources. There was a question somebody asked for the prompt for Lovable staff and how they build these things. Just if I clearly didn't make this obvious, Annabelle doesn't work for Lovable, so she is just a builder like yourselves, was part of season 1, and so you're seeing what it's not just Lovable staff who use Lovable for things like this, but everybody, round of applause for Annabelle. I believe you'll be in the Discord channel hanging out some as well, and this is what is I'm just really excited. This is the first merging really of the 2 seasons, and so you all are going to get to have amazing opportunities to learn from one another. And if you're not seeing in the chat, Annabelle, everyone is giving you so much love.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow up with the chat, but doing my best.
Well, everyone, we'll see you in the next session. Annabelle, thank you again so much. And if you're comfortable sharing, you can either share it in the Discord or send it to me and Javi, and we will send it out to everyone, as well as add it to the participant portal once that's open. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.